I'm so honored to be here with you and to share this presentation. So my name is Bruce Mack, and I'm the author of Higher Education by Design, Best Practices for Teaching and Learning, and Curricular Planning and Instruction. So I'd like to get going with you today. So creativity and design. I try and make certain that what I do when I'm creating a class or I'm designing a class, that I'm using creativity and design. In fact, I use design thinking quite a lot. And we all are aware of our standard lecture modality, where we stand in front of our students up at the podium in the front of the class, and we're delivering our instruction. But lecture still has its place, but is it the best way to just deliver our instruction? I've studied this a long time, and I just don't think so. Lecture still has its place, but we want to employ creativity and the principles of design to provide students with a better learning experience. So I think about creativity and design all the time. What is creativity and design? So, of course, generating new ideas, alternative teaching modalities, other possibilities, finding unique and novel solutions to problems, and inspiring creative thinking in your students. Creativity is finding new ways to present instructional content that engage students and enhance their learning experience. So when I talk about design thinking, I always want to refer to the 5 stages of design thinking. Of course, we have empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. So the first thing we want to do is try and place ourselves in the shoes of the students as much as we possibly can with empathy. We want to make sure that we're thinking about their experience. We want to create an experience for them. We want to define what it is that we want them to learn. And of course, we're going to ideate. Here's where creativity really comes into play. And we want to make sure that what we're doing is we're just thinking about every possibility. Write it all down. We might not all, use it all. Nevertheless, write every creative solution down, or every creative idea down for your curriculum and your pedagogy. And I'm telling you, sometimes you'll just be surprised at what you do use. Prototype. Well, now this can be a problem, but it can also be a solution. Sometimes what we're going to do is we're going to prototype our course with our first group of students. Normally, what I do is I ideate and I iterate, and I recreate my course maybe 3 or 4 times with my students. So I try and provide the best learning experience as I'm ideating and as I'm prototyping and as I'm iterating. And of course, this is all also involved, we're involving testing here with our students as well. So think about these 5 stages: empathy and empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. All right, I also use backwards design whenever I'm creating a course. I start with my outcomes, what I want my students to walk out of my course having learned. Objectives, of course, those are, objectives lead to outcomes. What do we want our students to learn? Assessments, I design my assessments so that I can make sure that my students are learning, that I can see that they have achieved knowledge, that I am the interface between knowledge and their learning, and that this has been successful. And of course, an instructional plan is exceptionally important. It's almost like a map. We don't normally just get in our cars and wander. We normally have a destination in mind. So I have an instructional plan. And of course, any materials that I might need for my courses, whether it's books or paper, or even in art and design, whether it's paint or anything else. So make sure that they have the materials that they need. So we often hear about how curriculum and pedagogy has been faculty centered for a long time. Now, we're subject matter experts, and of course, we've studied our subjects, intensely and for a good long time, and we think we know what it is that we want to teach. But sometimes, we have to meet our students where they are. Our students come to us from varied backgrounds and experiences and levels of education, and if we can think about our students as and maybe become a little bit more student centered, but to balance that out to be learning centered, so that there's the instructor, the student, and the course subject and the materials that they need to learn in our discipline, and we teach our disciplines, we teach our students our disciplines, I should say. That's a much more effective way and model for teaching. So objectives and outcomes, right? So again, with backward design, I begin with the outcomes, what students must know by the end of the class, end of the program. Objectives, those lead to our outcomes, so we want to highly define those as well. And do the outcomes and objectives align with each other? Sometimes we'll set objectives and outcomes and they don't align. Well, they should align with each other. The one should lead to the other. And of course, do they meet university requirements or degree requirements? We want to make certain that our objectives and our outcomes do meet those requirements. Assessment. Well, we do live in a society or a culture of assessment, but assessment doesn't have to be the biggest problem. There can be solutions in there. So what we want to do, of course, is we want to design assessments so that we know our students have achieved the course's objectives and outcomes. Okay, there are several choices we can choose. There's norm referenced assessment, which I'm not a very big fan of. There's criterion referenced assessment, which I am actually a big fan of, because if we communicate the criteria by which the students are going to be assessed, then they have a better opportunity to rise to the challenges of learning and succeed. There's formative assessment. Of course, this is very important if we want to check for learning. There's summative assessment, which is grades, and there's a lot of debate going on about grades these days. Nevertheless, we still have summative assessment with us, so we're going to go ahead and use them. But if we use them with formative assessment and criterion referenced assessment, why, we'll we'll make sure that our students are successful, or we'll see that there are opportunities for us to change our course. Of course, I'm a big fan of rubrics, checklists, surveys, quizzes, and exams, writing assignments. Um, I kind of shrink my exams a little bit because I like to employ a little bit or more quizzes so that I can check for learning along the way. And if there's something that I need to go back and teach, quizzes are a good opportunity for us to do that. Um, and of course, we want to assess by the end for higher order thinking skills, so that we want to make sure that we've taught for the objectives that lead to the outcomes for student learning. So planning instruction, of course, planning assessments, how students will show that they have learned. That's a very important stage. Planning learning activities that prepare students for success on the assessments. Now, a lot of people will say, "Well, Bruce, isn't that teaching towards the test?" Actually, it's teaching towards the objectives. And every exam, every quiz ought to support the objectives and outcomes, right? So it's not teaching towards the test, but it is teaching to ensure that we have the outcomes that we need by the end of the class. So your job as an educator is to plot that course. Again, like when we buy an airplane ticket, we know where that airplane is going. We know the trip that we're on and the destination that we're on. So plot that course. Make sure that your students know, where they're going, where you expect. Teach about the outcomes. Teach about the objectives, and make sure that you also teach them about the rubrics that are going to apply to them. And you want to teach, why these quizzes and why this grading criteria is important as well. So engaged learning. Again, the sage on the stage, where we are the professor up at the front of the classroom, and we're behind that podium, you know, and we're just delivering instruction to a passive audience. We don't want to do that anymore. We know that engaged learning, where we walk through, talk through, and drive through, or I do, we do, and you do, and engaged learning activities help students retain knowledge, help them learn. So turn and talk, think, pair, share, creative activities. Like I actually, to, in order to teach critical thinking skills, I use an escape room. We play a game. It's an activity where students have to work with one another in a group. They have to collaborate, and they have to determine a solution so that they can get out of the escape room. It's been a lot of fun. Of course, there's role playing, case studies. I love case studies and jigsaw activities. There's all sorts of things that you can do here. And of course, what we want to do is make sure that students have other engaged learning activities too, like internships and externships and co-op opportunities, study abroad. Uh, you know, if we ever get past this pandemic, I can't wait to travel abroad with my students and help them all learn about other cultures and people. So make sure that you're infusing a lot of engaged learning opportunities and activities into your curriculum. It's a very creative and highly designed way to ensure that learning takes place. Okay, of course, we have to worry about dimensions of diversity. And we are in an age where our students are different these days. They display dimensions of diversity. They may come from financially challenged backgrounds. We want to make sure that we meet our students where they are. Many students are not college ready these days, so we have to make sure that we, as educators and as institutions, are student ready, so that when they get here, we need to teach them, how to college, and we need to teach them how to be successful in their classes, and we need to teach them how to avoid issues, that might land them in trouble. We have to do all of those things, and we have to take into account that their individuality, their identity is exceptionally important to them, so it needs to be important to us. So teaching, you know, you really have to be prepared. Many faculty, and I'm an administrator, and so I review teaching and learning for many faculty. Many faculty are prepared only on time. And I know that course design is an exceptionally laborious activity, and it takes a lot of time. But the better prepared that you are, and the more teaching resources and curricular resources that you've developed and you've placed on your learning management system, actually this frees you up to be more creative in your classroom. You can chase down a rabbit hole if that's what you need to do, because all of your learning materials are prepared. So be prepared. Be intentional, of course. You want to make sure that you're intentional about your teaching, right? Um, every student needs to learn intentionally, and they're here with intention in order to learn. So we need to make sure, that we engage our students, that you know, we have that intention, right? Provide, feedback. Be kind. LBNT plus means like, best, next time plus. And so when somebody turns something into me, I tell them what I liked about it first. I liked this best. And then next time, what I'd like to see is this. And then plus, what I do is I make sure that I provide them with resources so that they can look at those resources, and then they can take those resources and incorporate it into their project or their paper or their assignment. So this recognizes success, it suggests improvement, and you also make kind of a personal connection with your students. So that helps you build rapport, create community, demonstrate care for students, and of course be positive. So like, best, next time plus really helps with kindness, really helps build rapport. So I've written another book called Pivoting Your Instruction. I actually wrote this in response to the pandemic. And this is also, has a lot of creativity infused in it. So there are design methods. Of course, there's instructional design, there's user experience design, there's learning experience design, and of course, there's design thinking. There's a lot of design. And it takes a little while to learn about it, but once you get it down, let me tell you something, it really empowers your instruction. So intentional course design. Of course, we want to make sure that we use the principles of comprehensive instructional design, which asks faculty to build all of their courses in the learning management system, regardless of the modality within they're going to deliver their instruction. If you have all of your learning resources, all your curricular resources, and you've got everything, your lectures are recorded, your assignments are built into your learning management system, your grading is built into your learning management system. And one of the advantages of learning management systems these days is that we can go ahead and do auto grading, which really cuts down on our time, and provides us more opportunity for teaching rather than just all the grading that we have to do. So if you get all of this stuff into your learning management system, whether you're online asynchronous, online synchronous, whether you're in a hybridized classroom where you meet with your students once a week, but maybe they interface with the instructional resources online, or whether you're face to face, but you use your learning management system to supplement your instruction, and you park all of your instructional materials on there. Having all of your instructional materials on the learning management system is super important. Now again, it takes a lot of time and effort, honestly, for myself, and I've been doing this for years now. It takes me somewhere about 25 to 30 hours to build a course online, and that's just one course. And if I'm teaching 2 or 3 courses, you have to do the math, but it can take a good long time. Nevertheless, it really does empower you to teach your students, and it gives you the opportunities again to engage with your students separate from the course material because it's all there and it's highly designed. And also, when everything is prepared in advance on the learning management system, we can avoid those Apollo 13 moments, like we faced in the spring of 2020. Houston, we've got a problem. And then, of course, what we have to do is address that problem. If we've addressed it up front and it's highly designed, well, we can go ahead and make changes along the way. Or if there's a situation that presents itself to us, we want to go ahead and embrace those opportunities, but we've got all of our resources there. All right. Of course, I just talked about a lot of the models of instructional delivery. There's fully online and asynchronous, all the way to face, and everything in between, including flipped classrooms and these things that they're calling high flex these days. Now, I have to admit, I'm not a very big fan of high flex. As it was originally designed, I think it's a much better model where you have assistants in your classroom, like we have here on this recording, where I have folks in the background who are helping me record it, and then I can deliver the lecture. These days, I think it's falling on professors to do it all by themselves. It takes a great deal of skill and practice to do that. So, although I'm not a big fan of it, it's certainly there. But you can see that there are a lot of different modalities with which you can engage. And again, if you have all of your curriculum online, if it's in your learning management system, you can engage in all of. You can even switch between these modalities if you need to. All right, so here, the Gallup organization had done a study, and it's called the Big Six, and they came up with these factors that cause students to be really engaged and be more successful. So here they are: professors, professors who made students feel excited about learning, professors who cared about students as people, a mentor. Mentoring is very important. A mentor who engaged with students. I mean, that's besides advising, and sometimes faculty do advise. We want to make sure that we understand that there's a distinction between advising and mentoring, and professors who make students feel excited about learning and professors who cared about students as people is how we then enter the mentoring realm. So, of course, beyond that, the opportunity to work on a long-term project. These days, we're seeing that students are taking multi-semester classes where they can continue their undergraduate research, which is very important. Again, we want to use design thinking and creativity in these activities. Taking part in an internship or a job where students could apply what they're learning in the classroom. Internships are a little hard these days with the pandemic. Nevertheless, we can still do some of these things online. Or what we're doing is we're considering a 1-hour internship where even where a student has a job, and lots of students have jobs these days, that they're engaging in internship activities in their job. Okay. And of course, being extremely active in extracurricular activities is important, or co-curricular activities, as we're talking about it these days, for students is very important. But some of them, some of the research suggests if they participate in 10 activities, either extracurricular activities, like if they go to a concert or a play, or they go to a lecture, a public lecture, or if they participate in a club or another student organization, this causes students to persist, retain, complete, and of course that makes us all a great deal more successful. Also, I really want to talk about a culture of care. If you think about it, Maslow's has been around for a good long time. And we think about, the lower level of Maslow's and how that plays out in our lives every day. But I want to tell you about the culture of care. We need to care for ourselves. We need to make sure that we're okay. We need to take care and make sure that our own mental health is cared for, that, that there is a work-life balance, that we are caring for ourselves. Of course, we want to care for our colleagues. Sometimes this is very important. We need to listen to our colleagues. We need to care for them. Sometimes just listening to our colleagues and giving them, our ears so that we can just hear them out is very important these days. Of course, we want to care for our students. It's essential that we care for our students. We're not here just for ourselves. We want to make sure that we care for students. Without students, why we wouldn't have institutions of higher learning. And then, of course, we want to care for our institutions of higher learning. You know, people don't sometimes care for their institutions of higher learning, yet they're the institutions that provide us with our employment, with the mission, vision, and values. We need to make sure that we're aware of all of them, and that we make sure that we're supporting them, and that we're involved in our institutions, and helping even our administrators. I'm an administrator. I love it when my faculty and my staff help me. But you know, this culture of care, we just need to make sure, and you know, that we're caring for everyone. And you know, everybody at a university and everybody at an institution of higher learning, everybody is important, from the groundskeeper through to the president, and everyone in between. And we need to care for them. And of course, we need to care for ourselves. So think about all of this as enigmatology. I love enigmatology. And what is that? Enigmatology is the theory and study of puzzles, or puzzling. We have to search for those pieces wherever they exist, constantly looking for things that we can bring into our classrooms for the benefit of our students, that also benefits our colleagues, that also benefits our institutions. We need to search for those pieces and put them all together. If we put them all together, and sometimes we can change those pieces out, it's okay. You know, as we learn new things, we can bring those pieces into the puzzle. The puzzle should be ever expanding, right? Of course, we want to use the design process. We want to use the design thinking process and creativity, because we want to iterate, ideate, and redesign. And if we do that, we do that for ourselves, we do that for our professions, we do that for our disciplines, we do that for our students, we do that for our colleagues, we do that for our institutions. Why, we will deliver an excellent opportunity and education, you know, to everybody. So let's communicate. I always give out my email address, and I wanted to give it out to you all. And believe it or not, I spend hours at night before I go to bed emailing people, and I'd be happy to hear from you. If you have any questions, you know, I also do a lot of Zoom sessions and things like that. It would be marvelous to communicate with you all. It might take me a while to get back to you. I'm so sorry. Nevertheless, I really hope that we can communicate and we can connect. Thank you so very much.